Welcome to Natural Born Talents. Today's subject is about how to contact your ancestors and how to tell the difference between a cult and a higher being. Now let's start with how this works at a basic level. The Matrix can be a very tricky place because there's all kinds of egos pulling people one way or another. And of course, that's part of the design of the Matrix. A lot of people are here to learn how to tell the difference between ego and the higher beings or the more loving beings. That's also part of the game. The easiest way to figure out if you're following an ego or you're following your ancestors, for example, is related to how much you enjoy your life. The concept of auras was to teach people the basics in order to provide information so they could move themselves into lifestyles that suited their psyche, their purpose. However, in the Matrix, we have all kinds of egos that will pull people one way or another to prevent them from achieving that goal. And one of them is, of course, cults. So if you're depressed, feel heavy, life isn't going the way it should for you, you feel, it's probably someone's ego somewhere messing with your life. And of course, this could be politicians, religious organizations, friends, family members, or businesses. Could be anything. And it's up to you to play detective on to figure out who you are by understanding your aura, for example, and who is the egotist pulling your chain. Now, the Matrix is not easy. For thousands of years, people make up all kinds of rules and laws about how the universe works, which has nothing to do with how the universe works. They may have some truths to them, otherwise they couldn't hook anyone into their cult. But generally speaking, they're made up. And it's not too hard to tell, because if they make up new rules that are silly, oppressive, destructive, serve only the ego, and the like, you know these people are not following a higher being, they are following one of the fallen angels or the devil himself. I have even seen people make up things about astrology, auras, tarot cards, all of these things that originally had very deep and meaningful applications have been distorted by people who make up new auras, new colors, new astrological signs, new meanings to the Bible, and on and on and on it goes. Now, all of these things have bits of truth in them, so you have to dig deep on what is important to the individual. But having said that, I'll give you a story on how I did this myself. And now my ancestors woke me up, and I knew it was my ancestors because they don't talk like angels, they don't think like angels, they don't teach like angels, they don't do things lockstep, they don't have silly concepts. They love, they play, they enjoy life, and that's pretty much it. Now, I recommend anybody who wants to learn how to do this, you have to be careful. When you open up your psyche, you're going to wake up from the Matrix, and that in itself can be hard, but you also can open up your mind to dark entities. And this is always what have been troublesome for the White Witch. When either the druids or the witches taught someone how to contact beings that are outside physical form, they had to be sure that the individual was ready to take any kind of spiritual attack, and that the individual could tell the difference between lying and deception and loving beings who are very informative, educational, and so on. Because the dark beings have learned long ago that they can start you off on giving you what you want in life, but then turn around and get very nasty on you very quickly. Most cults work that way, and I've had my fair share of that as well. But after practicing a lot of meditation, a lot of communication, you will eventually get the idea on who's helping you and who is not. And if you get good enough, you can trace the thoughts down to the very individual who's the baddie and the very individual who's loving and giving you proper advice in your psyche and soul. And again, this is all part of the Matrix and what the Matrix is really for. I've also noticed that if anybody lies to me, I pick up on the energy and immediately know that they're following some cult or some ego. I don't mean the kind of lies that everybody does to protect themselves. Those are okay. I don't care if people lie so they can hide something that they don't want other people to know. It's the deception to control, manipulate, or misuse another individual. Basically, what mainstream media and politicians are doing today. If you train yourself, they look like children just lying. It's not that hard to detect the lie. But this is something many politicians could learn from, because the egos they're following now are going to destroy them. But that's the funny thing about cult followers. You can tell them over and over again, but they don't listen. They have to experience it themselves. So any of the listeners out there who want to contact your own ancestors, I suggest this. Find quiet time at night before you go to bed. The more you know about the history of your family and family's ancestors, the better. Though it is not necessary, you may learn it later. Be very careful of things in your psyche that on the surface look like gold but underneath are not. Especially if they tell you that you're the chosen one, that you are enlightened and can change the world or something stupid like this. Again, the sillier, the more insane suggestion you get, the more likely it's one of the fallen angels or one of the devils. When you practice this, you'll start hearing things within inside your consciousness that go beyond daily routine thoughts. Nearly all ancestors are loving, playful, learned beings. They've been through this. They know it. They're here to help you and guide you. And as the Matrix is going deeper and deeper into the dark side, I've come across a lot of ancestors who are very concerned about their people who are on the planet at this time. They easily could be swallowed up by the Matrix. So I do recommend with some sort of prayer or meditation before you sleep every night in order to see if you can get closer to any beings that are on your side, trying to work you through this. Now, my ancestors practically shouted in my ear at certain times. At other times, they give me little nudge, hugs, energy, information. Case by case, day by day is different. I do get hit from the Matrix. Satan does show up from time to time, but I just try to work it out and get through it, and slowly try to achieve the goals that I came in this planet to achieve. And I know from experience, a lot of people are getting what is known as spiritual blocks. They know in their psyche that they should be doing something, but somebody has overruled their will. Somebody has invaded their psyche, their family, to prevent them from achieving their goals. And that's most likely because they are jealous or stuck in the Matrix or one of these other issues that they're dealing with. It's very frustrating, totally understandable. So I do recommend a lot of people try to get in touch with their higher beings, whoever's watching over you. You may get some help. It doesn't always work, however. Some of the ancestors will communicate you within very subtle ways. Some will scream in your ear. It really will depend on an individual's case. Now, having said that, a lot of people get stuck in one of these spiritual traps. They get so frustrated, they want to take their own life and leave. This is something I highly recommend against, and there are many reasons for this. One is that if you're feeling trapped and depressed to the point where you want to take your own life, it is likely that there are people around you who are pushing that very issue. Therefore, what you need to do is get out of their trap. And if you do succeed at doing this, you'll feel a lot better and you'll be much less likely to do anything drastic. When I'm on the other side, I often get asked by angels to help them with individuals who are leaving the Matrix, and we pull them out and send them to the various places in the universe, or we train them to go through their trap again so they don't get stuck in it. In other words, they missed something in their psyche that led them to their demise. It happens all the time, but if you skip the steps, you may have to redo it the hard way. I know that during the pandemic, a lot of people have taken their lives because they just can't stand it anymore. And as sad as that is, many of them may not be forgiven by the Matrix because they did not complete the mission that they came to complete and will have to repeat it. For some people, though this is rarer these days, they will be tossed in the inferno. And the inferno is, again, I'll make a separate video on this because the misconception of what the inferno is really about in the Matrix really needs to be cleared up a bit. You don't go to hell just because you did something bad. Hell is a training place in order to curb you away from ego. Or it's used as a crap hole for the people who cannot move on and grow from it, and they are left in it. But for someone who takes their own life, they might be tossed in the inferno not because to punish them, but to train them in order to say, hey, look, if we make you stronger in the inferno for a bit, the next time you come back to the Matrix, any pain or any struggle that you go through, you won't feel it. You won't feel as weak against those kinds of negative emotions, and you'll be more likely to figure out where the source of the pain is coming from in order to disconnect yourself from it and move on. So the inferno is not about, oh, you did something bad, you're going to hell forever. It's never really like that unless you're a baby soul, of course. That is the one exception. It's really about, we're going to cause you this kind of pain so you stay away from those kinds of egos or spiritual traps. So in conclusion, if you find yourself practicing these spiritual things and your life turns out to improve, you have more love in your life, you have more joy, security, playtime. In other words, your life is balanced without using ego to make that happen, you are following your ancestors. A lot of people use ego to make that happen. They are following the fallen angels or the devil in order to pretend that they have made it. This is why the Matrix can be so confusing. So if you come across a group that says, oh, follow us, we're spiritual, I can tell you everything about your psyche, your auras, and all these wonderful things, well, it's likely it's a cult. But if you come across somebody that your ancestors introduced, you likely will learn the same thing without the BS. And that's the key. Again, the Matrix is designed for the baby souls. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they manipulate. That's why they become politicians, and in some case insurance salesmen. It's up to the non-baby souls to decide what the truth is for them, move away from deception, and learn to love the people that they came in this world to love, particularly their soulmates. So if you improve these skills, you can play spiritual detective and solve things like unsolved murders, runaways, and other unsolved crimes, as well as ghost hunting. More on these subjects in upcoming videos. But to conclude this video, I'd like to ask any of my listeners if you have any questions related to the techniques on how to contact your ancestors, or anything else related to this video. Please leave them in the comment section below. And that will do it for this video, and thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you in the next one. I wish you all the best.